Stop holding your breath. There's a difference between breathing to survive and what we're gonna talk about in this video. So listen up. Now the first thing you can do in the water are a few different drills that I'm gonna go over. First up is the rotisserie kick drill. This is one of my favorite drills that really focuses on balance, core stability. It's gonna work on your kick, of course, and it's gonna work on your breath control. Now the way this works is you're gonna push off the wall in a streamlined position. I like to start on my back, that way you're breathing, and over the course of a 25-meter or 25-yard pool, you know it's in a 50-meter pool, you're gonna gradually rotate around your side, and you're gonna be like a rotisserie chicken. Yeah, that's right. So just imagine yourself impaled and you're just gonna be rotating 360 degrees like a rotisserie chicken. Now, the more controlled you can make your body across this rotation, the better, because the key is trying to balance on your side, because that's what you do when you take a breath. It's also gonna improve your lung control and capacity, because what happens is you're gonna feel like you wanna rush this movement, and you don't wanna do that. So when you're focusing on improving your breath, it's really critical that you focus on balancing on your side and only doing 2 or 3 full rotations over the course of a 25. You don't want to really force it. You want to be gradually rotating just like you would when you swim. And if you can do this in a rotisserie kick drill with a slow rotation, it's going to be easy to do when you're balancing your breath on your side. Now, the next drill I like to do is where you have both arms at the wall. This is a little bit more beginner drill, but it's good for the advanced folks too. And you're going to have a solid flutter kick going. You're going to be patient, and you're just going to take a stroke underwater and rotate to the side. Now, if you have a flutter kick going, this can actually be pretty difficult to balance yourself at the wall. It's going to take some core stability, but this is really going to teach you how to keep one eye and one ear underneath the water. Now, the next drill that you can do is 12 kick switch. This is one of my favorite drills for working on rotation and also the breath. But what you want to do is you want to focus on stability. You're going to be on your side with your arm extended. You're going to take 12 flutter kicks. You're going to bring your arm up, high elbow, and then rotate onto the side. Now, the key here is taking your breath on the side. So when you're doing this drill, you want to have your eyes looking down, and if you need a breath, you're simply going to rotate to the side. This is a drill that you can do with fins and the rotisserie kick as well. And fins make it a little bit easier to give you that little extra boost of propulsion. That way you're not trying as hard to keep your legs up. So you take your 12 kicks, make sure you get a breath, and then rotate, put those eyes back down, and then make sure you're really focusing on keeping that stability. Now, the fourth drill I like to do is the paddle on the head. Now, this one really is a little bit more of an advanced drill if you're already comfortable breathing on your side, but this is really focused on developing speed in the breath, because if you're doing this drill slow, it's gonna be very difficult to be able to swim with the paddle on your forehead. And what happens is the resistance of the water is actually going to push the paddle into your head. So if you lift your head up or you're not moving very fast, the paddle's not going to stay there. So when you're taking that breath, you want to focus on keeping one eye in the water and one eye out of the water. It's so important, because if you don't do that, then the paddle's going to leave, and it means you're not moving through the water efficiently. I have here on the board the speed is inversely proportional, which means the slower you go, the harder it is. So if you go really fast, this drill is actually much easier. Doesn't mean you should sprint, but you should consider how fast you're going to be able to keep the resistance of the water pushing the paddle on your head. Remember, the water is 800 times more resistant than air, and never forget it. Finally, focus on keeping your eyes on the prize. The prize is that beautiful black or blue line on the bottom of the pool. So when you're doing this drill, when you're swimming freestyle, when you're swimming butterfly, breaststroke, doesn't matter, focus on looking at the bottom of the pool. Believe me, it's not that exciting anywhere else. Look at the bottom of the pool. It's just as boring, and that'll make you swim faster. And our final drill here in the water is the single arm freestyle. Now, a lot of people do single arm freestyle to work on the pull, to work on the kick, rotation. I actually believe that single arm freestyle, while it may be difficult, especially if you don't have fins, it actually works on your breath control and your body rotation with the breath probably better than almost any other drill. So it's really important when you do freestyle with one arm, you're gonna take strokes with your leading arm, your other arm is at your side, and your head actually leads the rotation. So if you look at me on the board, I'm gonna put my fingertips into the water, and I'm gonna rotate, I'm gonna get my breath, my other arm is dry now because I'm on the side, I get my breath, and then my eyes are actually going to start the rotation. Rotation starts from the upper body, and then my shoulders and my hips are then gonna follow. You want to use your core so your hips actually drive the rotation, but really it's initiated with your head. So your head is here. You take your breath and then you sink your eyes back down, and then your core and your hips all together are rotating. But the timing is your head actually starts the rotation, then your hips engage the core, and it's all going to rotate together. And then the pull, of course, happens at that point too. So really focus on these 5 drills. Now I want to talk about how often you breathe in terms of how many strokes you take before you take a breath at different distances and speeds. But before we do that, I want to thank today's video sponsor, AeroFit. AeroFit is the official breathing partner for MySwimPro, and it's a tool that I've been using for the last couple of years to improve my accessible lung capacity and swim faster. Now it all starts with a 3-step test to get your baseline, and then the app will set you up with a training program. Now the workouts take less than 10 minutes a day, and all you have to do is follow the app and adjust the resistance on the breathing trainer. And you can see it all happening in real time. The AeroFit Pro 2.0 uses magnetic charging, so you can use it at the pool or at home. After just a few weeks, you're gonna start to see the difference. Now these exercises strengthen your diaphragm and the muscles between your ribs, so you can inhale more air with every breath. Now this makes your breathing more controlled, and that also helps you sleep better and recover faster. If you're ready to take your breathing to the next level, make sure you check out the link in the description and use the code MySwimPro to get 15% off your AeroFit order. So how often should you breathe? Well, it depends on the distance and also depends on your speed. So let's talk about casual swimming. You're just swimming back and forth. The effort levels are easy, moderate endurance, or maybe even threshold. You should be breathing every 2 or every 3 strokes. There's really no reason why you should breathe as little as every 4 strokes or every 5. And when I'm talking about stroke count, I'm talking about how many times your arms come out of the water, like how many each arm is a stroke. So 1, 2, 3, I feel like I'm doing the Macarena. Hey. So make sure you're really breathing enough. A lot of swimmers think they don't need to breathe and they just go 10 strokes in a row and they have an irregular breathing pattern. I personally breathe every 2 strokes on almost every 25 of any set that I'm doing, unless I'm going fast or I'm doing a breath control set. Now what happens if you're trying to do a race or you're trying to go faster? What is a sustainable breathing pattern if not every 2 or 3 strokes? Well, if we're doing a race and the race is 200 meters or more, you're gonna need to maintain that breathing every 2 or 3 arm strokes. So you take strokes, this means you breathe on one side, that's fine, or you bilaterally breathe, meaning you breathe on both sides for every 3 strokes, that's great too. Should you breathe every 1 stroke? I don't think so. I don't recommend that. You probably don't need it. That's actually breathing too much oxygen. So what if you're doing a race between 100 and 200 meters? Well, here we're gonna have some variation. Depending on the race, depending on your skill level, depending on if it's a short course race or a long course race in a 50-meter pool, you might breathe between 2, 3, or 4 times. Now, all of these can be successful. If you're a little bit more of a beginner swimmer and you're just getting things going, it's actually okay to breathe every 2 strokes in a race. Maybe you don't breathe on the first 4 strokes of the race off the dive or maybe off the wall. Other than that, breathing every 2 strokes is perfectly fine in a 100 to 200 distance. If you're a more advanced swimmer and you're racing, you're a little bit faster, you're doing the 100 free, you might not need to breathe every 2 strokes, maybe even every 3, and you can breathe every 4 strokes and that's gonna be good enough. If you watch the elite swimmers in the 100 freestyle, they might only take 1 or 2 breaths per length in the 100 freestyle because the race is that fast. And finally, if you get down to the 50-meter freestyle, I don't care what level you are, if you can swim 50 freestyle fast, you should not be taking any less than breaths every 4 strokes, meaning you should be comfortable going 4 strokes before you need to take a breath. If you're a more advanced swimmer, they might be every 6 or 8 strokes. And if you get to that level, you probably plan out how many breaths you're gonna take before you do the race and where you're gonna take them. So in a short course pool, you might take 1 breath on the way down and 2 breaths on the way back, or 1 and 1, or 0 and 1. Most of the time when I swim the 50 freestyle, because I don't train for that event specifically, I'll do 1 breath. I only do it on the second 25. Could I train and do the 50 freestyle in 0 breaths? Absolutely, if I just focus on that specific event. So if you decide to focus on doing a 50 freestyle, no breath, you gotta pay attention to the things that we're gonna talk about right now, and of course, check out AeroFit. So here are some things that you can do out of the water to really put it all together. Number 1 is breathing through your nose. And by the way, a lot of this stuff is really just good for your health in general, not only for your swimming performance, but just being a well-functioning human being. It is so important to breathe through your nose. And this is when you're sitting at your desk or in a classroom. If you're not eating, chewing food, of course, you should have your mouth closed and you should really focus on inhaling through your nose. And here's why. Because the nose is your natural filter for oxygen. What happens is when the air comes in your nose is actually going to moisturize it and heat it up. And scientifically, you can actually absorb 20% more oxygen through your lungs when you breathe the air through your nose as opposed to your mouth. So right now, hopefully you're watching this and your mouth is closed. If not, shut your mouth, breathe through your nose. Number 2 is to slow down your breathing. You want to be really patient. I know I talk fast. I'm going to slow it down for you guys right now. You should do the same thing with your breath. Try and be more efficient with each breath that you take. Now, naturally, you might take between 12 and 15 breaths per minute. That's actually normal. If you really relax and you think about this, you can actually get your breath count down to 8 to 10 per minute and feel comfortable. Really make sure you're actually exhaling. Now, you don't want to hyperventilate and just hold your breath and say, oh, look at me, I can take 1 breath per minute. Well, that's not efficient because you can't do that in the long run. So really make sure you're exhaling and you want to focus on this breathing efficiency. This is something you should do right now while you're watching me because you're probably not doing anything unless you're going for a workout right now. That's a different story. Close your mouth, breathe through your nose, and try and slow down your breathing. Really focus on that exhale. Number 3 is improving your lung capacity. Now, we talked about this. We want to improve our accessible lung capacity. And by the way, fun scientific fact, this is the #1 marker of longevity. Basically, how long you will live is basically dependent on what your lung capacity is. And as you get older, your lung capacity actually shrinks. Your lung capacity goes down. This happens much more quickly after the age of 35. So depending on how old you are when you're watching this, you want to really maximize your potential. Or if you're over the age of 35 and you're getting a little bit older, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you're really maximizing what you already have, and doing all of these things is a big part of that. Number 4 is to train your breath. Now, we've already talked about a few different ways that you can work on doing that in the water and swimming and even out of the water with some training tools. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to increase your tolerance of CO2, carbon dioxide, over a period of time. Now, there's a few different swimming sets that you can do. We didn't talk about them. We just talked about drills in the beginning. But whether it's something where you count how many breaths you take over the course of a 25 or a 50. So if you swim 650s freestyle and you only take 2 breaths per length on all of them, or 3, or breathe every 4, or breathe every 5. Whatever set you're doing, you're basically conditioning your body to tolerate CO2. This is both mental and physical. Next up, you want to stretch your lungs. This is the flexibility of your diaphragm. Now, even if you don't have any tools, this is an exercise that you can do right now. So here's me at the pool explaining how to do it.
All you have to do to start, put your feet together. We're going to do a nice tall stretch. Bring your arms up and inhale through your nose. And from the top, you're gonna exhale as your arms come down. Slow and controlled, you're gonna do that 3 times. Now we're ready to take it to the next level. Again, put your feet together. You're gonna put your hands behind your head, and you're gonna inhale as your elbows come together. Inhale. And then on the push out, you're gonna exhale. Focus on stretching your diaphragm. Repeat that 3 times, and that'll improve your lung capacity, and you'll be surprised just how much your lungs expand.
These are just a few ways that you can improve your accessible lung capacity and improve your breathing technique both in the water and out of the water. If you enjoyed this video, you're gonna love a video I made on 5 of the biggest breathing mistakes that are holding you back. Check out the video, and I'll see you over there. Happy swimming.